that away. Um, in short, it's kind of been a big topic I've been getting hit up with from various groups and folks is how do I put it succinctly? Just if I could put it in a sentence, drawing, package, setup, and layout consistency. It's kind of been a moving target here at DJNA because we have so many clients. We're getting to different types of agencies, designs, different disciplines now, with the structural group doing more, possibly in vertical buildings. So it's kind of becoming even more important, and we've tripled the amount of employees since I've been here working on design projects. So that added to it as well. Different softwares, but really kind of like the big picture item, if I had to say most succinctly, is when I think of a drawing package, I'm kind of envisioning what files are in it, um, their organization, vetting through them at the beginning of the project, at least enough to kind of get a storyboard in mind of, hey, what sheets might I see? Give it a little thought, some detail sheets, 2 cover sheets, design drawings of which sort, maybe it's grading or water. I kind of call that the storyboarding phase. Just you're thinking about this stuff, and it's kind of surprising. Like entry level employees, it's pretty understandable. It's tough to know all these things. You're learning as you go, but you see a lot of kind of a lack in planning of that too with really experienced employees or people from all kinds of backgrounds. And the more time you can put in the beginning of just thinking about some of this stuff, even if it's an hour or two, you're going to save the most efficiency just thinking about your drawing setup, which folders we already have, where you're going to put what where, how many files here. You're not going to get it 100% perfect, but that hour or two I spend usually saves me a ton of dividends in the end. And you're going to have kind of I call it the drawing storyboarding phase. You're kind of envisioning where you're going to put things. And the more familiar you are with like DJNA, where we put things we'll go to in a second, the more you're probably just going to have 80% of this figured out. But it's a pretty critical step, I think, to keep efficient and to keep a good drawing package, not only for yourself as an engineer or designer, or a CAD technician, but also for others that are jumping into projects. And, deadlines are tough, and I sometimes just have to like do things and get into a project late and just continue the way it is. There's always variables like that, but the more you have control of it at the beginning, usually I find the most efficiency. So if I could go back to my screen share, back to CAD land, I'm trying to bounce between a lot of screens right now. And I'm just going to kind of start out, well, let's say we started with a brand new project. Could happen in a couple ways. You might tack it onto a project that exists, that's well established in the folder structure. You just don't have a choice. You don't have all the time in the world to blow it up. You might start brand new. So there's different situations. You may use a clean template, different ones you might not, and you're just forced to maybe use a hybrid, some new elements, some that are already existing because the project's in the middle. But let's assume on this one, we're starting new, and it's come straight from our survey department, and it's mostly in-house. So a couple ways is we have some templates, and most of you guys are familiar with them. Let me try to get to the right folder here. Template folder. We have some a Revit one in here, and our Civil3D and AutoCAD ones in here. Through the cloud, SharePoint folder, main documents, and CAD standards, templates. And most of you are linked in your AutoCAD options and all your versions to this. Some might have an old version that's still to the F drive, which was just archived this week. Most of in the design world are going to stick with these 2 templates. These MPS ones here are kind of becoming the old ones. I'm leaving them here for now because we're still testing this one out. Right now, this MPS one has design and survey layout tabs in it and page setups. There's a few things to vet out, like we're trying to get all the text sizes for profile views, 0.13 in size, for example. But it's pretty much ready to go to start using on projects. So you guys would be using one of these two most likely. There's some blank templates in here, which I'm going to cover just in a sec for different reasons you might use one. These are the two main ones. Full blank means there's literally nothing in it. It is blank, just layer 0. You might use it when you just want to make a attachment with a large aerial or something. And I'll show you a quick example of that on the CAD screen in a second. And this one is similar, but quite a bit different. These two, it's worth repeating how different they are. This one has all the Civil 3D styles and blocks, various line types, symbologies embedded in the background, but has almost nothing else in it but one layout tab. So it's very blank, but it has all the design stuff in the background that 80–90% of us use, like Civil 3D styles, blocks, layers, line types already loaded in the background. It's just really light on its feet. An example, what you might use this drawing for would be a design-based drawing for grading or water or sewer or even a structural-based drawing. This one you might use to keep as light and nimble as possible. You might have one thing in it. I frequently use it for a really big aerial that I have as a separate DWG attachment, especially on big ones, from my sitemap, for example. So you've established, okay, I need to start with a new template. And maybe in other times you don't. You start with an existing project. What does that look like? So here is, it opens up as a DWG, number 2 or 3 or whatever, which is good. You don't really want it to open up as a DWT and you overwrite it in our live active folder for everyone. So what I usually do, I think, okay, what's my storyboard? What am I making? Maybe I am setting up my sheets for my details and cover, and it's for the U.S. Forest Service. So the first thing I would probably do is, maybe you don't like using these sandbox items. You could delete them out. They're there to use as you wish, and the same on the sheets. I would probably find which cover sheet I might want to keep. Keep that. Maybe keep the sandbox items. It's up to you. They're there for you to use. It's kind of to get everyone familiar. Same with model space. I have a version in model space because a lot of times you do drafting and paper space in model space, different scenarios for different things. So that's why they're available in both. They're at a scale of 40. So you might wipe most of this stuff out. Up to you. But for sure, I would start by going to my sheets here, and I would Control-Shift-Select and delete a bunch of them and just get them out of here. And I would maybe even delete most of these ones you don't use. You might just keep a plan and profile one and the cover sheet because you have another U.S. Forest Service sheet that is perfectly dialed in for some really specific details. And the only thing you add from the template is the title block. I'm just deleting out a few sheets that say you wouldn't use for U.S. Forest Service. So you take a few minutes to delete out what you know you don't need. You can always go back to it later and open a new template and just steal from it, excuse me, as you need. Like say you just need Forest Service sections to run Braden's automated cross sections we've been working on. You can always go back, but the key is to try to keep consistent, grab the same title blocks that have all the same page setups, that print the same. And another thing with these, we've been getting a lot better at this, is I won't go too much into detail because it'll probably drain our time, is it's a little bit situational when you decide, maybe not for the cover sheet because the title block border is different, but for the plan profile sheet, maybe you have 50 sheets. I had one with 20 some this year. I would make a decision right away. Don't do it at the 50% phase to make this a XREF. And I would bring this into a blank drawing, blow it up as much as you need, exactly what you need, change the text. And this is the reason I would use one of the blank templates. See if I can figure out, here it is right here. I would totally use the blank template for this. I brought in like a USGS in the blank template here. And I literally have one layer in this entire drawing. So let's pretend that's one use. You could use a blank template. Here's another use, is you just copy paste your title block to like 0, 0. You blow this up, take out what you don't need. A lot of times that means deleting out things you know are going to change on each sheet. You got to kind of think about what might change on each sheet that you put as a field in your live sheets rather than this XREF. Things like that. It takes a little bit of time and practice on this, and then this would get XREF'd as an overlay into all your sheets in your paper spaces. And you can update it in one spot for 50 sheets. So that's another reason to use a blank template. It makes a really light file, and when you copy something into a blank template, it inherits what you brought in, the block, the layers, the symbology, the line types, yada, yada, all of it. So that's a beauty of using a blank template for something like your title block reference. What was I going to talk about next? Talked about blank templates a little bit, maybe when to use them. The blank template with Civil3D styles. So this is one I've already brought in a survey sitemap. I'm going to undo it and rebring it in to talk about XREFs just a little bit. But this sitemap, let's see if I can go to the right project. I got a few project examples. I'll try to stick to the right one here. Most of them are U.S. Forest Service. This is one I'm actively working on with Galen, updating some things, making some new plan sets. So remember, with survey drawings, our workflow is to leave the survey sitemaps and stuff untouched in the survey folder in DWG. Don't XREF to them, don't edit them. This isn't a perfect process, but it's the best one we've found to date. And usually a survey gets done, it's done. There's usually not much pickup surveys. The only difficulty with this process, sometimes there's a new survey, we go out and add data. It can make this a little complex. But you basically take, let's say, this Edgewater sitemap that I'm on, you copy it and go up a couple levels to the drawings folder. We have MicroStation, DGNs, and DWGs, the two different disciplines. There should be a structural one here. This one it was wiped out. That's pretty common industry standards, especially bigger firms. They'll keep their disciplines separate, even though our civil and structural group do drawings almost the same. Getting into the Revit world, that's changing, but that's still kind of a common practice I've been noticing. So we'll go into the civil world and you paste it here. And this becomes your sitemap. You're not editing data and making things up, but you can edit it. You can change layers. You can make demo layers. You can cut and break things. You can do kind of custom things to your needs for your design. And you paste it here. So this becomes its own place. So I opened up a blank template here and started it. Make sure you use the one with the Civil3D styles and stuff in it, because this is going to become our design drawing maybe. And let me just delete this out like I hadn't had it done yet. So I saved this blank template to my project number, whatever. It's going to become my design drawing. I've already brought my site survey up from survey into my site maps. I'm ready to XREF it basically. So let's just do a little XREF 101. I'm going to detach this because I just deleted it. I'm going to attach a DWG. This is pretty similar to MicroStation, attaching references, nested, non-nested. I think I'm in the right project, yes. And I'm going to attach this drawing, open it. One of the critical things here is I usually leave these alone. I go to 1, 1, 1, or 0, 0, 0 is the insertion point, so it's a common point, which we all can remember, 0, 0, 0. I think most people who have used CAD are good at this. This is the part that some people miss. Almost always use overlay. There's times to use attachment. I'll get to that in a sec. Overlay keeps the external reference light on its feet. It doesn't bring any nests, things within things of the drawing. Let's say you have some things inside of it, maybe two drawings linking to other drawings. It can get really messy. There's times once in a while when you want it to do that, like you have a drawing within a drawing and you want it to bring in both. Usually the way we keep our drawings clean and separated, you're going to do overlay though. So we bring it in, goes to 0, 0. You have your site map in your design drawing as an external reference. Keep in mind when you bring them in, it goes on a layer. So I already turned on my layer XREF. It's on. You might do XREF sitemap because you might have 5 sitemaps or something crazy. I have this external reference, a smaller map. The next thing I'm going to do is let's say saved it for the right. I should have just had one of these projects open. So I'm in this project and I've saved it to my civil design folder. This is going to be my mother folder for design. 2D, 3D. I'll get to maybe some thinking about splitting them in a sec. This is the drawing I'm now in per se. And I'm ready to do some data shortcuts, maybe just one for a surface. So data shortcuts, they're still kind of a pain in my opinion. You basically start from here, go to here. You usually skip this one unless you have multiple within one project, and then you end here by creating them, and then they populate here. And they're per project, so when you switch projects, you got to switch back to whatever project. So they stay on whichever one you're most currently active. So I would set my working folder. I've already made it here, but I'll just make another one, and that's okay. And I'll make a new folder. I'll call it Aaron's test or something. And then you'll see it resync. This address should sync up. That's a good thing. And then after that, I will create a data shortcut. You have to be in a drawing that has something to shortcut. So I would have to be in this drawing with the live surface or any Civil 3D. You can data shortcut a lot of things. Surfaces are probably our most common, alignments, profiles, view frame groups even. And I'm going to, it made a data shortcut. I'm going to say create data shortcuts as the last step. I've already done it. Otherwise, this should be a green checkbox and let you just check it. If there's other things like alignments, this is the only allowable one I can do because it's the only entity in here. So I have that data shortcut. I'll go back to my new design drawing I just made, and we're going to bring in that surface as a data shortcut. Create reference. We're not going to promote it. We'll say okay. This is some of the stuff you're doing at the beginning. And now my surface is in this design drawing. So at this point, I've got some of the bases set up. I have some aerials, maybe a site map. The last couple things I think we only have time for is I talked a little bit about XREFs, not everything, but the main things. How many base design drawings should you have? How many base design drawings should you do 2D and 3D? And I've heard a lot of opinions on this, and honestly, there's no perfect solution, but I have some opinions on this. Let's start by saying, so this project, where do you put your drawings? This one, we kind of have set up that all of our base design maps are in this folder. All of our site maps are in this folder. I like to granularly save old files in that exact folder instead of, at this level. That's kind of a preference. There's in our blank template, you have old versions. You can save them all of them at once. Up to you. I like doing them granularly. Design files for design files. So, for example, and I do that quite a bit. This design here was a complex parking lot, and it went through 15 revisions with the architect, not to mention all the other stuff that comes with a site design. You can see how many iterations I had over a year and a half. I, at different intervals, will surgically save my design files here. I don't rely on AutoCAD to save my backup folder. I'm proactive. It's something I would recommend. It's saved me countless hours. So this is me just saving the design files from that day of probably a 10-hour day. And I hardly use the majority of them, but once in a while I have to go back to one to grab something. So that's just some tips I have for back saving. Um, where do you put them? How many? So let's focus on that. So this one, we just have the base design map for these 4. Preferably, I like to keep the project number on this on the front end of this and say something about design, something that indicates, and we're working on, let's do this exact. Other agencies, Western Federal likes it different, MPS likes it per sheet, but in general, put something that makes sense, that's searchable, the site, design base map, and project number. So these ones are okay, but I would add a little more information. So civil design, and these are where we're doing our profiles, alignment, our 3D or 2D. And I'll get to the 3D, 2D debate in a sec. Secondly, I'm going to close this project because it's getting in the way. I have another project from the U.S. Forest Service me and Patricia worked on, and it has a structural and a civil element. I'm just going to stick to the civil. I did these 2 jobs slightly different, but not much. The only thing I did different, there's a lot of these DWLs because I'm in them right now. It was about a 30-page plan set, and all the 30 pages are in these 2 drawings. This one has all my 20 profile views because I had to make them with view frame groups. It was most efficient. This one has my cover sheet, intro sheets, detail sheets, maybe 10 to 12 sheets. I put them all here. I don't really care on this one. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. It doesn't matter that much, but either put your sheet production sheets here, and the smaller the job, this makes more sense maybe to put them together. The bigger the job, you could consider putting them up a folder into sheet production. So you might put that, I put the wrong one in there, but this would be like my detail sheets, my intro sheets, sheets that aren't connected to the design. In this sheet production area though, I always put things like my sheet set that runs over here. I always put it in this folder. So this is for that 30-page plan set. I always put a DSD file. This would be a sheet plot file, like if you're doing specific plots. Story for another time on those. They're related to the sheet set files. I put the title block blank DWG in here that I XREF into all my sheets to edit in one spot. I always put that here in the sheet production folder. And if you're doing view frame groups that me and Braden have been working on and perfecting, I always put this sheet in here too. I would pluck this from our templates, copy it here, and edit it to your specific needs before you do your view frame groups. That's kind of a story for another time, but these are all good things to put in the sheet production area. Your details, intro, cover sheets, you could put them here, or you could put them here, but pick one. I'd say the bigger the job, start thinking to put them in here. The smaller the job, you could totally put both drawings in here. I'm really not going to lose sleep over that. If it gets to the point where it's getting too messy, we might have to just always pick one on that. But that's my thoughts on that. 2D and 3D drawings. So I was always asking folks on the 2D, 3D drawings to have separate. I was trying to get a good example of one to do it. And Ted, finally, he hit me up with a really good reason to do it. So I'm in a design drawing right now with a lot of XREFs I'm going to freeze. I'm always of the opinion to keep all your design elements 2D and 3D in one spot as long as you can for as long as possible. It keeps it kind of efficient to edit at the same time in the same spot. But he brought up something that was interesting to me, that some people have a tough time with layer management, and they're kind of learning how to wield layers well, turn them on and off. That was a good reason, I thought, one of the few I've heard to keep possibly a 2D and 3D drawing separate. In this case, my design drawing, I have all my view frame groups, my 3D surfaces, profiles in one. But there's times when you have multiple designers, you might keep 2D and 3D in separate drawings. I would say the bigger the job, the more that might apply to, and the more people touching it, or the skill level of the designers. Um, but I'm kind of at that level where I usually keep my designs in one design drawing as much as possible. Um, that's probably all I could get to today. The last thing is just more of a housekeeping thing. I see this in jobs a lot. Feel free, and it's a good thing once you learn the files more, to clean up folders. You know, delete out your DWL files that remain after a crash. Clean out your recover files. Delete out old versions, so when you make 3 different iterations, someone goes in there, they know which one. Delete out error files, plot logs. Mainly, just keep a little upkeep on these. Um, Use the old folder as your friend. After you've done every 10 to 12 hours of work, I usually make a new backup, and it saves my butt. So that's all I got for kind of like the intro to pathing and drawing setup. Probably make a couple more videos after I come back in October about things like layer management and more specific stuff. So